Sunak, the Prime Minister, his New Year message of hope, a bit like the Pope. What Sunak's saying is that good times are coming. He doesn't say when, though. And he doesn't say how. And he doesn't say who. So you don't know if the good times are coming today, tomorrow, next week, a month from now, next quarter, next year, this decade, sometime this century. You don't know how it's going to happen. Just the good times are going to come. So the good times are coming. How he's going to make the good times come? Nah, I'm not going to tell you that. And who they're coming for, he doesn't tell you that either. I would imagine the good times are coming for the Tory donors and the Tory MPs who will get an uplift on their expenses and get their fingers into a few more pies and get their snouts into a few more troughs. And obviously people that know Tory MPs, when the next crisis comes along, man-made or otherwise, they'll be at the front of the queue to help out. And let's hope that the brown paper envelopes is pretty big and that the hip pockets, they went to the tailors in Savile Row and they've got the jumbo back pocket trouser extension. Minimum that you can get in there should be £1 million squids. So old Ricky Sunak, he says that it's been a horrendous 12 months. It's got nothing to do with the government, though. It's marred by war, and the war's terrible, no doubts about that. Inflation, which basically the government and the banks created, and political turmoil. He's the third Prime Minister this year. The number of senior ministers that's been and gone and picked up the lumpers in the pensions is, you could fill one of those small gutter football mobile stadiums with the numbers that we've had through. Sunak said he wanted to bring a sense of fairness to modern Britain. Bear in mind that you can't bring a sense of fairness to olden Britain because that's history and it's happened. But he says he wants to bring a sense, not actually fairness, but just a sense of fairness. Right? It's just a sense. You could put a non in front of that, the French word for no, and you would get nonsense. He wants to bring a sense of fairness to modern Britain. The Tory party, of which he is the leader and the Prime Minister and the government, has been in power from a couple of years at the start when it was in collaboration with the Liberals. Has been in power for 13 years. And the best that we can come up with is to bring a sense of fairness to modern Britain. A sense. He's not bringing fairness to modern Britain. He's just going to bring a sense of fairness. So here's your slice of fairness, and here's your slice of fairness, and here's your slice of fairness. Everybody gets a fair slice. Some people get a bigger slice than others, by the way, but that's only fair. Isn't it? Some people need to eat more. Some people have more bills. So their slice of fairness is just going to be bigger. If you're a Tory donor, your sense of fairness is just a Pentanticon truck. You need to haul away the slice of fairness that you'll be getting. Other people will just be getting a sliver of it. They don't need that much fairness. And he says he's optimistic about the future. So you can, based on, is it just in your water? You feel optimistic, great. Or you're an optimistic person. He's come from a family that's worked hard. He's probably worked pretty damned hard himself to get himself through the education grinder. And, he's ended up in one of these big banks. You've got to be pretty hard working to be in one of those. But normally in those banks, the base assumptions or the forecasts or the projections, the base them on something. Normally something tangible, like unemployment levels or inflation levels, CPI percentages, how things are changing, world situation, better or worse, global economics. They tend to base them on something like that. But it's not saying anything about that. It's just saying he's optimistic about the future. Why not? Just be optimistic about the future and get your sense of fairness here. He said he knows it's been tough for some people. not for everybody, and certainly not for the Tory donors and people that managed to get their hands on some of the nice PPE contracts. It's been a pretty successful year for a lot of those people. But he's really confident that better times lie ahead. How far ahead? Who can say? Sometime in the next 100 years, perhaps? Doesn't say. For whom is the good times going to come? Nah, I just can't tell you that either. How are you going to get there? Nah, I've missed that bit out. But just take it from him that good times are just around the corner, metaphorically speaking. How big's the corner? I cannot say it. But it's the good times. It's jam tomorrow. You know, you didn't have any jam yesterday. In fact, the piece of bread that you had with the jam on, you dropped it and it fell jam side down onto the ground so you couldn't eat it. And somebody trampled on it. But the jam sarnie that you'll get sometime in the future, the optimistic future, and the fairness future, and you're having the sense of fairness that you've got your jam sandwich in your hand, it'll be jam sometime in the future. But not too sure. Will it be strawberry jam, rhubarb jam? Do they make rhubarb jam? Wherever. Raspberry jam? Any of those type of jams. Will it be any of those? Doesn't say. Doesn't need to. But he's optimistic that you'll have a sense of fairness. You'll just sense it. Fairness may not exist, but you'll have a sense of it. You'll just be able to sense that. Oops, I've just sensed there was fairness sitting next to us. Oops, sent a shiver down my back, but here presto. He's only been in the job for several weeks, and he's looking forward to the to the next election, as we all are. His chances of winning it, I would say, are fairly slim. He's got to have an election basically within the next 2 years. More than likely, it'll be in the autumn of 2024. That's the year after this one. We're right at the start of the year. So he's got the whole of this year, and he's got about 6 to 9 months of next year. He doesn't have to go to the country for the election till early 2025. The chances of having a winter election tends to be low. Unless, of course, the sense of fairness hasn't percolated through the ether to everybody in the UK, and his optimism hasn't been founded or unfounded or here, there, and everywhere. The optimism hasn't broken out. People are still glum. You know, are still wondering how they can afford things with the cost of living and inflation going up. Oh, but the inflation have went down by then. Yeah, but will the prices come down? Oh, whoa. We're just talking about inflation. Look, the inflation, it used to be 10%. Now it's only 5%. But the prices haven't come down. But the inflation's down, man. Yeah, but the prices are still way high. Don't worry about it. You'll get your 1% rise from the government next year, maybe. Along with that sense of fairness, and here's a side order of optimism on the future. He's saying he feels positive about the change that we can bring. So we can improve people's lives. It's just bland. Oh, wouldn't it be great if everybody had a good time? Yay. So we can improve people's lives, so we can deliver the peace of mind people are looking for in the here and now. Who wrote the script? Benny Hill. The difference is Benny Hill's, you know that it's supposed to be funny. This is just word salad, rearrange, cozy, nice feelings. Whether it's around energy bills, everybody thinks that energy bills is too high, more than likely. Or making sure that backlogs, that's why I'm saying Benny Hill. Backlogs in the NHS are reduced. It's pretty hard to imagine how they can go much higher. I think the last head count or body count of people wanting to get their bodies into the Aussies to get something done to them, and a great procedure or a referral to a specialist or something along those sort of lines, is 7 million. Probably the bulk of those people will be over 50, over 60. So you've got a disproportionate number of elderly people on the whole, you would imagine, than the general population. Is this a waiting game by the government? Just like, we'll just push this out so far, and perhaps some of these people won't need to be on the waiting list anymore because they'll not be on the waiting list, if you get the drift. 7 million. Population in the UK, 69. Call it 70 for roundies. That's 1 in 10 of the population. If you basically, you say the bulk of people under 35 to 40 on average, I'm not saying that there's nobody, but on average, the people that's on the hospital waiting lists are on average about 50. That's like about, if you just split it down the middle, 35 million people. That's 1 in 5. That's 1 in 5 if the people above 50 are on the hospital waiting list. 1 in 5, 20% of people. When you get the pensioners, probably a bit touch higher than that. 1 in 5. So the sense of fairness is something that you've got to have. You've got to have a sense of fairness. MPs don't have to use the normal NHS if you weren't aware of that. They have fast track system for being MPs. I'm not too sure if the unelected House of Lords get that privilege. You'd have to check up. I'm not too sure about that. But the NHS waiting list doesn't apply to MPs. And the cost of living, not really, because they get most of the stuff that they need to spend on excess. So the price of the taxi goes up, they just claim more. And they get a subsidised canteen in the house. So you've got this group of people that thinks, yeah, it's pretty fair. And it's, I'm optimistic that the prices in the House of Commons will not go up next year. But even if they do, I'll just claim it on my exes. Oh, you can't claim for the meals through the day on your exes. Well, maybe it's not, maybe you can't, don't know. You know, second house or that sort of. You've got your John Lewis vouchers. What about your horses? Are they being heated enough? You know, could we not let a few vagrants in to share the stalls? I read up which of the government ministers has got heated stalls for his horse. Yeah, which is fine. He's got the right to spend his money any which way he wants. Just like Clint Eastwood can make titles for pictures like that. So Ricki is pretty positive and stuff like that. And the Mirror, I think the unions are taking a stance. This is just my personal opinion. Possibly one step further than they need to go with some of these comments. Unions, Sunak won't break us in 2023. I think this is the lady from the nurses union. I realise that the nurses work for the NHS and the NHS is funded by taxation. And ultimately, the Minister of Health or Mistress of Health and the PM or you could say technically the ultimate employer at the end of the tortuous line of who employs who. But I think by doing that, this lady, I can't remember her name, apologies, which is making it into a personal sort of thing. Union Sunak won't break us in 2023. I feel that you should just concentrate on the points that they want resolving, whether it's more pay, more training, different working times, conditions, stuff like that. She should concentrate on those things. Basically saying Sunak, like Sunak's the problem. They won't negotiate or give with the money or whatever it is. And the money they're asking for is inflation plus 5%. They would like to cash in that clapping checks that they got from a couple of years ago when the government and lots of people went on the doorsteps. I think it was Thursday evenings around about 8 o'clock and clapped to the sky and bang pots and all the rest of the stuff. And I think at the time, I think it was a Dutch lady that had started it off and lived in the UK. I think it was something that brought certain segments of the population together. We're in this together, we're fighting it. We're showing solidarity with the nursing people and stuff like that. It lasted for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, and then it tailed off as all of these things do. Some people were skeptical from the start about it. Some people thought it was a good idea. Some people thought it was naff. You always won't get that. But she's making it like it's a boxing fight between the union and Sunak. I do not think that that's a good way to portray, display, outline. She should, to my mind, she should be trying to take the position that what you're asking for is justifiable and restate the facts and not get into a slanging match where it's a personality thing. That's just my opinion. I don't think the ad hominems tends to work in the long run. The government has problems. It has a multitude of problems. most of the problems that the government's got is because it won't address the problems as they arise. And that's not just the Conservative government, it's the Labour government and the Conservative government before that and the Labour government before that and so on and so forth. And it's not just endemic to the UK. I would say the US and the Euroland countries are quite similar. But the problem that the UK government's got is the reaction that the stance that they've took in relationship to Ukraine, and basically cutting themselves off in buying cheap Russian gas and oil. Oil's a word commodity. Gas tends to be a regional price. I think the gas in the US is far cheaper than similar gas that can be bought in Euroland and UK. Even though we've got loads of gas fields out in the North Sea. But politically, they want to shut these down. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up, can you? But apparently that the Britain's nuclear fleet, because apparently that's how you talk about the nuclear plants when you've got more than one. It's a fleet, and it's owned by Energy something, ADF. I think it's Energy or something, Department Francais or whatever. I'm unsure whether the French government has a share in this. So what's happened is that the Euroland, the US and the UK have put sanctions on Russia and they've said, we're not going to buy your gas. Consequently, the gas prices have went up. Consequently, the different governments have taken different routes to try and plug the hole with the gas and to try and alleviate the burden of the higher gas prices by handing people money. That money will be clawed back in the future by higher taxes on people through the personal allowances being frozen, and they'll pay income tax on more of their salary, and NIC costs will be going up. NIC is just a tax, it's not ring fenced. It just goes into the general exchequer. So one of the bright ideas that they had, bear in mind that the energy companies pay an increased corporation tax compared with other companies. So this is the oil and gas type of companies in the North Sea, and they pay a higher corporation tax normally than what the normally companies do. So one of the bright ideas was we'll tax them even more. That'll not cause any problems, will it? Well, they're making all these horrendous profits, we can just tax them more. And that'll work out, won't it? They'll not have any future bearing. Well, apparently it does. ADF have said that by imposing this tax, this windfall tax, this is just the windfall tax. This is the windfall tax which goes on top of the corporation tax. It'll increase the windfall tax from 25% to 35%. That means they'll be paying an overall tax rate of 75% because they pay a 40% tax at the moment, so they'll be getting taxed at 75%. Now that's a laugh, isn't it? That's, we must admit that that's a Benny Hill type of laugh. So what did ADF say? Well, they said they've reported a loss of 21 million in 2021 because its retail business faced high gas costs, but it couldn't recoup them because of Ofgem's cap on household bills. What does that mean? Well, to most people it means you're going to go bankrupt, or you're not going to continue, and you'll just get a cascading failure of energy companies, which you've already had. There's two of these places, Ayrsham in Lancashire on the coast. They always put these nuclear places on the coast so that they've got access to unlimited supply of coal and water. Possibly so that they can also vent stuff. And Hartlepool said, and they were meant to close in March 2024. That's only just over a year away. Because they're getting old. But ADF was considering a 2-year extension to their lifespan to ease the energy crunch. You've got somebody, a Treasury spokesman, doesn't say who they are. So you should always treat people that's not identified with skepticism, and if you've got any sense, don't believe them. Because if it's true and stuff like that, people wouldn't have any fear of going on the record. Anyway, this unidentified Treasury spokesman who should be treated with scepticism said this temporary measure is not designed to penalise electricity generators. Let that one sink in. We've raised your tax to 75%, but it's not designed to penalise electricity generators. This is not the Ministry of the Treasury, this is just the Ministry of Doublespeak. Well, of course it's designed to penalise electricity generators. He's saying, oh, hurt could be a woman, you don't know. It's a response to the fact that as a result of exceptional and unforeseen geopolitical events, wow, how many big words can you get into a sentence? Exceptional, unforeseen, geopolitical events. Some electricity generators are realising extraordinary returns from higher electricity prices. Who caused this? Well, the British government did by refusing to buy the Russian gas. You say, no. Putin caused this by invading Ukraine. Whichever way you want to play it. If the British government had wanted to buy the gas from Russia, it could have done so. So it's a wee bit self-imposed. Other countries are buying the gas and the oil from Russia. Not everybody's sanctioning them. Just the people that's holier than thou. In a few years' time, when this shimmies out, you'll be able to see the people that's made money off of the Russian trade. Don't be surprised that politicians, possibly in the United States, in Euroland and in the UK, or people associated or donors to these people, maybe he's made a ruble or a shekel or two out of some of these deals. Treat what I'm saying with skepticism. But in a few years' time, think back and think, oh, yes. By that time, it'll all be done and dusted, and, people will just be laughing about it. EDF operates all 5 of the UK's serving nuclear plants. Said that the Chancellor, by raising the taxes, will make it harder to keep the aging stations open. I'm sure the bright sparks at the government can come up with some nice sounding phrase. Make we feel better about it. It'll not make you feel warmer because there'll not be any electricity if these things shut down. It would remove the cushion of spare capacity. You see, because nuclear plants can provide what's termed base load. Yeah, they can work 24 hours a day, unlike solar panels on the top of, like holier than thou. And look at me, aren't I good for the environment? People that's had them banged on their houses in the UK. But they pay for themselves in 3 minutes. If you've lived in the UK the last while or two, this winter that we've had, I'm not too sure how many kWs anybody's panels will have been generating, if any. The old windmills that we've got only provide a small percentage of the total load for the country. One of the incongruencies of cold weather is that it tends not to be windy at the same time that it's really cold. Odd time it is, but lots of times it's not. So you get these cold snaps, cold spells. Really, you want them windmills to be fleeing around as fast as they can. But when you take a look at them, they're not moving because of no wind. So Boris, in his glee to jump on the Le Wagon Verdi, he's ended up committing the UK to a faster than fast transition to getting short of traditional power supplies to meet these totally self-imposed restrictions. Nothing bad can happen, can it? Yeah, we'll just shut all the gas fields down, shut the oil fields down, shut the coal-fired power stations down, shut the nukes down, and then what? I will import trees. We'll import chopped up trees from Canada. That's environmentally friendly because the trees replenish themselves in 100 years. This is the level of critical thinking that the government's at. And you say, well, yeah, but the government, they've got all of these experts and these people. They know what they're doing. They wouldn't let the British people suffer by any of this. Not they wouldn't, They wouldn't let the British people suffer. The leader says fairness to modern Britain. And he's optimistic about the future. So, there's not going to be any power cuts. You're just making things out to be big worse than what they are. You know, so far we haven't had any power cuts and stuff like that. And that is true. If you're going to put windmills up, you need to put up, I think, if you work it on the basis of what they're producing, the level that they're producing, the uptime and all that, I think you need to go from wherever it is, 50,000 or whatever windmills that we've got now, needs to go up to 500,000. Yeah, 500,000. I mean, it's just phenomenal amount of money involved in doing that. And plus the fact is, it's the electricity that it produces is intermittent and it's expensive. Oh, you can't say that. Country needs dependable energy. Heavy industries need energy. Your house needs energy. Your central heating system needs electricity for the pump. And the 2 nuclear stations supply more than 2 gigawatts. You might as well say something in trig, sine cosine relationship. Nobody understands what 2 gigawatts of electricity actually means. It's a lot of watts, like when you've got your one watt electric fire blasting out. Well, how much is a gigawatt? Well, 1,000's a kilowatt, and then you've got a megawatt. Is a gigi? Is that the next one up the scale? So that's like 1,000, a million, like a billion. Is it a billion? Is it a billion watts? A gigawatt? I don't know. Neither does most of the people probably reading this. Whoever's written this article needs to put it into context. How much is a percentage of that in the country? How much does the country use? Does the country use 35 gigawatts an hour? Or does it use 10? Or does it use 500? Saying that it uses 2. Here we go. I shouted too soon. That would typically provide enough power for 4 million homes per year, and around 4% of the power the UK uses on a cold day. So there you go. So the reporter did do a good job and did outline that it's 4% of the power the UK uses on a cold day. So these two go down, so we lose 4%. I'm not too sure how close to the mark the electric company and the Central Generating Electricity Board run a plant. But if you take 4% off, you've got a good chance that somewhere in the country they'll have to have their electric power turned off. Now, would it be fair just for the one place? The place I would suggest would be Central London, Westminster, Houses of Parliament, and places like that. That would be the place I would suggest to cut off. Because there's enough hot air coming out of the politicians that that they could run Parliament just on that. So that's not good. 4%. How long does it take to build a nuclear plant? I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years. How many gazillions of shekels? I don't know. Was there any bribery and corruption involved in it? I don't know. The commercial director, a lad called Glavin, at EDF UK, which is, I got something right, which is owned by the French state. So, I was going to say Senor, but it's not, it's Monsieur Macron, his government, le gouvernement français, l'administration de la France, they own the nuclear power stations in the UK. What? Ah, but it's been okay because we're in that Euro club, and it shouldn't make any difference. Shouldn't make any difference if the snail eaters own all the electricity generating places. You know, or should I say what's it? The bread stick people. Does it make any difference that the French own it? Not really, apparently. But on a level of energy security, would not make sense for the for these sort of things to be owned by an entity like that's in the UK. Just national interest, would you not think? I'm not saying that Macaroni will turn them off just for spite or anything like that, but it doesn't sound sound, does it? You're dependent on a foreign government supplying all of the nuclear power stations. Their company has the technology, the experience. Their company employs all the engineers. You're getting into being a subservient serf economy if you do this. You lack the wherewithal to have That's if you want to have nuclear plants. A lot of people say shut them down. Okay, so we shut them down so we don't need the frogs. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? Going to build some more windmills? That seems the only realistic option. The solar is no good. The amount of solar that you would need that you get out of the UK is, it's in, you know, there was talk of putting the solar in the Sahara Desert, half the Sahara Desert, and putting a big cable in subsea, and that would power Britain. Yeah, nothing could go wrong with that, could it? Unless, like, the Americans want to destroy the cable. Oh, sorry, we're jumping to conclusions that it was the Americans or the Allies or the Poles or the Brits or the Royal Navy that destroyed Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2. Be realistic, be logical. Are you honestly going to say that it was the Russians that blew up that whole pipeline? Oh, way, man. You've got two options. We can either blow up the two pipelines, or we can turn this little lever or wheel on the top of the pipeline and it shuts the valve. Which means in the future, if you decide and you make up and you're lovey-dovey with people again, you can do that and turn it back on. You can it when you're blowing up the two pipelines and all the gas, millions of cubic meters of gas that was in there under high pressure, methane, CH4. There's probably some ethane in there, C2H6 in there. Escaped into the atmosphere. It's just went totally blank. Nobody's concerned. Nothing to look at here. If Colombo had turned up, he would have been. The police commissioner would nothing to say here, Colombo. Get yourself back earlier. Sort out some other cases. We don't need to know. The Danes and the Swedes or wherever, they've done an investigation. And I can tell you about it, though. Not gonna do that. If you were putting bets on it, where would you place your money? The Russians have indicated they think it's the Royal Navy had a finger in it. Now, Britain is stupid. The government in Britain has always been stupid. How Britain ever had an empire is beyond a lot of people when you see the standard of the numbskulls that we've got and had running the country over the last 50 years or so. But Britain is tied by some deep and hidden ties to America since the Second World War. Britain is allowed by the United States to build, under license, a certain type of submarine that carries missiles that can be fired from just below the surface. America doesn't allow anybody else to do it. Doesn't allow the French to do that, or the Italians, or the Germans, or anybody. The Japanese doesn't allow them to do it. Britain is like the useful idiot for the United States. When they sent planes to Libya, where did the planes take off from? They took off from Britain. When we had the Gulf, big bashes, who did Georgie boy? He got Blair. Blair got fired up. Yep. We are with you. There's some ties possibly that were agreed during the Second World War that's secretive and nobody knows about. That's just me speculating. I've got no proof on that, and you should take that with a big bag of salt in a blue tied wrapper, the size of the bin bag. But there's something that ties Britain to the United States, and it's not this shambolic, we both believe in democracy nonsense. Did the Royal Navy have anything to do with it? Was it a joint operation with the Yankees and the Royal Navy? Well, nobody, the European Union's not bothered about it. Huh? They don't want to know. They've just said it's the Russians. It's nonsensical. If Johnny Cochran, the lawyer lad, if he was still around, and he had the case, he must have quit. Where's the evidence that the Ruskies did this? Where? Show us. You've got satellites all over the place. There's American spy satellites round and round the world every so many minutes and stuff like that. Sure. Oh, well, it was subsea. Yeah, there was a frogman. He swam all the way from Moscow in a drain. And then he swam down the pipe and he blew it up from the inside. That's why you didn't see him. And he was wearing black scuba gear, so you wouldn't be able to see him. It's nonsensical. The Yankees, more than likely, were the people that said this is going to happen. Useful idiots. Well, it could have been somebody from the Royal Navy that carried out the donkey work and actually did it. But there's no way in the world could Boris have said to the Royal Navy, do that. And Uncle Joe, across there in the White House, would have to be told, and if he said no, then Boris wouldn't be able to do it. That's the way it works, apparently, to my mind. Getting back to EDF, the French owning this. The windfall tax is not going to make it easier to keep these plants open. But don't worry, it'll not make any difference because the Tory party will not be in power come, I would imagine, back end of 24, start of 25. I'm going to dug in the fight. I've voted Labour, I've voted Conservative, I've voted Independent over the time. So I don't stand just for one party all of the time. But realistically looking at it, me being like a swingy voter, I cannot honestly say that there's any realistic chance of the Conservatives being anywhere close to being the government. The difficult thing for the Labour Party is that they're basically fighting for the MPs in England. Traditionally, the Labour Party got a lot of its MPs from Welsh Wales and Scottish Scotland. But the SNP have ridden the Labour Party out of town up in Scottish Scotland. So Labour has got to get basically a majority in the north of England to have any chance of winning. But the Conservatives are held in such low esteem now, I think, by most people, after the absolute failures of what's went on over the last 3 years. The NHS crises after crises, all these strikes, the CPI, cost of living, all of this, I just cannot honestly see. Politics is surprising. People were surprised by how big the majority was that Boris got. Boris got that majority on one thing, to my mind. That was Brexit, get Brexit done. Politicians had fiddled about for 3 years, prevaricated, dragged their feet, didn't want to comply. Boris said, let's get Brexit. And they were helped. They were helped because Labour had such a basically a hopeless candidate as their leader, Corbyn. Where's Corbyn's legacy in the Labour Party? Where's the people that were in Corbyn's cabinet? Where are they? Most of the people that's in the Labour high echelons now didn't want to serve under Corbyn. Conservatives won on 2 points. Get Brexit done. No Corbyn. Even though we would like the free broadband, just no Corbyn. If Starmer had been the Labour leader, Boris, to my mind, I think would have still won, but I don't think he would have won by such a margin. Starmer is the next Prime Minister. I personally don't think he's got an original thought. I don't think he's a leader. I think the problem with the Labour Party is the people that they've got in like the shadow cabinet positions. He's the best of a bad bunch. He's the cleanest, dirtiest pair of underpants in the laundry basket, to my mind. But I still think he's going to be the next Prime Minister, unless the Conservatives get shot out of Ricki in the next year, which I can't see happening. Things change. So the business cases, experts, blah, blah, blah. If you have periods of still winter weather where wind output drops, then you could be in a situation where you really struggle to keep the lights on. So the taxes, windfall tax or generators, they'll be paying 70% tax. You tell me any businesses which would like to operate under those conditions, 70% tax. But that's only when they sell electricity for more than £75 a megawatt. There's claims, doesn't tell you by whom, that generation firms were reaping huge profits from high wholesale prices of electricity. It's expected to raise £14,000 million by 2028. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. That's 5 to 6 years. Right? So if you say it's 5 years, that's only 3 billion. That's £3,000 billion a year. A lot of money, a lot of shekels. But take a look at the cost of Trussonomics. Some people say that costs 30 billion or 10 billion. Cost a lot of money. We're only talking about 3 billion a year. Yeah. See the fancy way that they roll it up, make it sound like a bigger number. 14 billion by 2028. I would imagine, because that's when the tax it'll drop off. They won't be paying it anymore. But if you want to play that game, you could say it's going to raise 140 billion by the year 21-28. Make it 100 years time or so much. It's nonsense. The windfall tax on oil and gas generators. There you go. Can look. So what? The likelihood is that they'll not invest any money in this stuff. And people try and cut corners. When you kind of make a good sized profit, people will cut corners to keep the profits up. One of the first things that goes research and development, new projects, oil and gas projects, from deciding, inception, design work, construction, fabrication, installation, commissioning. You'll be lucky if you get an oil and gas project turned around in 3 to 4 years, sometimes 7 years. A lot of companies have cut back drilling, cut back prospecting, cut back making developments, trim back. So, what's next on Ricki Tikki's his fairness thing? Talking about strikes and talking about ruling out strikes or bringing in minimum staffing levels. Yeah, let's say you get through the House of Lords. Let's say you get that on the statute books. Who got striking? Nurses, ambulance drivers, junior doctors are talking about going on strike. There's a lot of doctors coming up for retirement, and their pensions have been changed so that they can't stay. But a lot of them have probably said, "Well, I didn't want to be in this malarkey anymore." Who else we got striking? Now the railways, the postal people, driving instructors, border agency people, whatever they do. Who knows? There's probably more. I've probably missed some people out. The problem with the strikes is strikes only work, to my mind, until you strike. And then people realise that they can't just get round the strike. Well, that wasn't too bad, was it, the railway strike? We've agreed to work from home for them days. I'm just not going to use the train on those days. I'll use my car. I'll get the bus. I'll just not go. I'll not spend any pennies on that. Post office. Let's make a stamp £1. £1's not a lot of money these days. Let's make it £1 for us. People just stop sending it. Email. Send email, text, WhatsApp, Facebook, 101 things that you can use to send electronic messages. When I was a kid, people used to go away on holiday and they used to send postcards. And you had to be quick when you went away. If you were in the UK, it wasn't too bad. Like the Monday or something, you could get the postcards and they would be home for Tuesday or Wednesday. If you went abroad, like to Spain or somewhere like that, you had to be quick. I mean, say people would get the postcard if you're just away for a week and stuff like that. My family couldn't afford the weeks and stuff like that. But if you got home, like people would say, "Oh, did you get me postcard?" And you go, "Oh, I just got it yesterday." And stuff like that. People stop sending. Post office is just for packages now. It's just a branch of Amazon. The post office, who owns them? Deutsche Telekom or Deutsche Post or some Spanish company, somebody who, I don't know who owns the post office anymore. But it's owned on the stock market, so lots of companies and people like that, and you could buy shares in it and stuff like that a few years ago, 6 or 7 years ago when they privatised it. But these challenges, these strikes, this is just pandering to the hard edge of the Conservative Party that thinks that we live in a military junta state, and just by having something written down on a bit of paper that you can enforce it, and take them strikers out in the street and let's show them British justice, string them up and all that sort of game. You've got a certain element of people like that. as though that's going to work. This stuff, the legislation is just, it's just window dressing. It's just to assuage that the right wing of the Conservative Party, look, I'm doing something. I'm going to come up with this legislation, which means that the poorest people, it's got to be blah, 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 this, or you kind of do that with the ambulance, or the firefighters. They kind of get out and strike or whatever. It used to be firemen, but now they're firefighters. You know, will it work? No. Because you'll not get, the government can ram it through. There'll be legal challenges to offer this. Then how do you enforce it? People just don't call in sick on that day. How do you prove that they're not sick? Well, but want to have a strike on Tuesday. You can't have a strike. Strikes are banned. Okay, right. 50% of people on the Tuesday phone in, cough, cough, cough. We're all sick. It's a de facto strike. However, well, no, it's people living in simplicity land, you know. What else is on Ricky's? This is from the Sunday Times. I'm not saying that they've been drinking a lot on New Year's Eve, but this just sounds like raw propaganda. Wavering voters could scupper Stormer's victory. Really? A third of the electorate in key battlegrounds are still don't know. Giving Tories fresh hope. well, Rishi said that he wants people to have hope, didn't he? You know, he's optimistic about the future and he's fairness. Does he say he believes in hope? I don't know. You know, Bill Clinton pulled that stunt, didn't he? Hope came from a place called Hope in Arkansas, or Kansas. But I think it was the Kansas, the Indian tribe, where was it Kansas and Arkansas is just beside it. But he didn't say that. You would think that he would say it Arkansas, but he didn't. It's Arkansas. It's because the French got there, and they weren't going there to build a nuclear power station at the time. They were going there to get some beaver pelts and some trappings and stuff like that with the red hats. What's the French for? Is it rouge? What's the French for hat? Can't remember. Maison is a house, isn't it? What's the French for hat? Tête? That's head. Can't remember. Anyway, the red hatters, they opened up in a lot of the names are French names, like St. Louis or Saint Louis, Nolans, New Orleans. These are French places because the French people got there first, and then the Brits came. Well, basically English. With a few of the Scottish people, haven't we? And basically give them a good hiding, and we took over. But that was Bill Clinton. He came from a place called Hope. I mean to say we're sliding into this nonsensical, just feel good about stuff shit. We'll not come up with anything realistic to do it. So getting back to the Sunday Times, these wavering supporters propping up the ball. Sunak can. You'll hear more of this nonsense. That I mean to say, you just wonder. You really think that the Conservatives have got a hope? Have you ever tried throwing a snowball into a blast furnace and saying how long it lasts? This is just nonsensical. Perhaps it lasts a pretty long time if the blast furnace is powered by solar power or windmills. But it's just rank stupidity. It's obviously on New Year's Day. They must have wrote this 2 months ago, so we can just file it in there. We'll just use that. Everybody is still have a hangover from last night. Nobody will be that bothered about reading this sort of rubbish. But Sunak is preparing to announce a string of policies. These are just policies. No, it's going to happen with them. They're just policies, though. An attempt to define his premiership. Like I said, the Conservative's been there 13 years. He's a Conservative. These policies, surely, the other Conservatives must have had policies. What happened to them? What was the policy for the NHS? Was the policy to get 7 million people on the list? Was that the policy? Well, the big one, because we've got a few strikes on the go, the big one is the new anti-strike laws. Minimum service levels, unenforceable. To be required on transport, unenforceable. This will set the Tories apart from Labour, and is hoping to introduce the legislation this month. It'll be insipid, it'll be unenforceable, and it'll not work. So you just take that one and you just can kick that into the longest grass that you can find. The next one's a joke. It's a Benny Hill. Tackling it. It's not even worth talking about, but I will, because it's the next one on the list. Tackling immigration by introducing legislation by the end of next month to speed up deportations, blah 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 blah. David Cameron said we're going to reduce immigration to whatever it was, tens of thousands a year. Every other Conservative senior minister and Prime Minister said the same sort of thing. Last year, the years that the government uses slightly different, I suppose. There was 1 million new people came to the UK. 500,000 people vacated the UK, so it was a net increase of 500,000. Now the bulk of that is legal immigration, people from Afghanistan, Hong Kong, XYZ places. And then you've got the tens of thousands, 40 or 50,000 people apparently turned up last year, immigration. The strain that it puts on low paid workers, strain that it puts on all the social services in the country, strain that it puts on having to pay for this out of taxation is not addressed. Will he do anything? No. He fundamentally won't, because he believes in unlimited immigration, to my mind. Otherwise he would have done something when he was in the cabinet. Just like Boris must have done, just like May must have done, just like, what was the other one, Cameron, just like Brown, just like Blair. They've all allowed lots of immigration into the UK. It suits the Labour Party because, on the whole, people who come and immigrate to the UK tend to vote socialist. And the Conservatives want them because it spikes the unions. It holds wages down, and it keeps the unions off balance, because there's always a surfeit of cheap labour coming in. Have a look in your town if you go into a town or somewhere. Take a look at the lads and lasses in some cases that ride these Deliveroos in Just Eats and stuff like that. Stand in McDonald's at the section where they're getting the orders made up. You hear the people speaking. A lot of them are immigrant labour. That means you can get your Mackie D's cheaper. Look at all of the transitory labour required to do all of the vegetable picking and stuff. Hard jobs. When the penny was on the go, they said, "Oh, we'll get British people to do it." No, I couldn't do it. British people have exited the workforce in lots of cases, so the cry is always, we need more immigration from the Conservatives, and the businesses all say the same thing. We can't get the labour. And what they fail to tell you is that the rates of pay that they want to pay people vis-a-vis comparison with the benefit system. Will any of this happen? No. Nobody, apart from 1 or 2 high-level cases. Now these people, Albanians that are actually in prison, are talking about deporting them and putting them into prisons in Albania because it'll be cheaper than keeping them in prisons in this country. The average punter that comes across in a rubber dinghy, they aren't going to get deported. Everybody in the country knows that. This is just more window dressing. This is just more posturing and stuff like that. Nothing's been done to address what to do with all of these people that's come. Whether they're legitimate or not legitimate, whatever, nothing's really being sorted out. They're all living in hotels. Talking about getting cruise liners to fill them up with them. Okay, so there's 130, 40, 50,000, however many numbers, sizable number of people, and the bulk of them, so late teens through mid-30s, by the looks when you see on the pictures and stuff like that. What's that going to do to the labour market once they all get given visas? Is the will do. Where are they all going to stay? These 100 plus thousand people. Where they're going to stay? Is the burden to find accommodation for them going to fall onto local councils? Tell her, you're the Prime Minister and all this stuff. Tell her what's the long-term plan. Bear in mind that this shows no sign of abating. In fact, all it shows is that there's more people wanting to come. So whatever it was, 40,000, 50,000. So just say round figure terms, 1,000 people a week are going to come to the UK. 1,000 doesn't sound many, but when you take it over a couple of years, you're looking at 100 to 200, 300,000 people. Once they get asylum in the country, they'll be bringing, I would imagine, spouses, family members, other people. So you can probably double or triple those numbers. Where's the housing for all of the people? So we can build more houses, fine, okay. Where's the money for the housing? If the burden falls onto local councils, how are the local councils going to fund building accommodation for immigrants? These are the real stonkers that need sorting out. Where's the plan? This is just window dressing. This is just more and more nonsensical window dressing. Same again, it appeals to the right wing of the Conservative Party. It appeals to the, you know, we've got to kick them out, or we've got to do this, or we've got to do that, and stuff like that. I'm saying you need to be realistic. The people that's here are not going to get kicked out. Okay, one or two. But the 150,000 people, they're not going to hide them out. They're just not. If you cannot say that, then all the politicians are saying, yeah, we've got to stop the people floating across in the boats and stuff like that. Yeah, it's them bad people smugglers, blah, 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 blah. You haven't done anything in the 13 years they've been there. Now, the people coming can see that you're a paper tiger. I think that's what they called Britain, I think, in the 60s or 70s and stuff like that. One of the African leaders, paper tiger. That's all they are. This is just words. It's not going to do anything. So these people rock up at France. The French police didn't stop them. There's pictures of the French police standing on the beach, just allowing them to get into the... How can you stop them not getting in the boats? They're not committing any crimes. So they get in the boats, they paddle across, midway, the RNLI speed out and pick them up and bring them back into the UK to prevent anybody from drowning. Where's the long-term solution? What are you going to do when these numbers aren't 1,000 people a week? What happens when they're 5,000 people a week? What are you going to do? What's your solution? The solution that Sunak's got is, well, I'm only going to be in this job for another 18 months, so realistically, I just have to come up with some proposals, make some new fancy laws that nobody will obey, won't be enforceable, and I can just scuttle out of here in 18 months' time. And it's up to Starmer to sort all this nonsense out. To my mind, that's all that seems to be happening. And the last one, and realistically, this should be the top one. They've got strikes, then immigration, then the NHS. You ask anybody in the, well, okay, I don't know, I haven't asked everybody in the UK, but ask a section of people in the UK, what do you think is the most important? The strikes, immigration, or the NHS? Ding, 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 ding. That's the people pressing the bell for the NHS. So it's third on Sunak's list. Action to tackle the NHS backlog. Yeah, okay, tell us what it is. Including an urgent care recovery plan to help reduce long waiting times for ambulances and a primary care plan to increase the availability of GP appointments. Now, you can fiddle around on the corners and on the extremes of this. You can fiddle around at the edges on this to resolve these things. You can make the booking systems a little bit more effective. You can do these things, the marginal gains. I'm not suggesting you should not do them, but there's something fundamentally flawed at the present time where you've got 7 million people on the waiting list. How are you going to sort it out? A lot of people say it's money. You need to put more money against it. A lot of other people say, no, we can sort it out. It's the unions. It's these people. We've got too many administrators. We've got all these non-jobs. There's an element of that. Boris said that he was going to get 20,000. I'm not too sure if it was new police or additional police. You've got to watch when people are talking about numbers. Do they mean an increase, a net increase in numbers, or do they just mean new people? And they're not taking into account the people that's retiring or leaving. Anyway, that failed. You didn't get the 20,000. In the numbers that they got, nearly 2,000 of the people jacked after a few months, couldn't be retained. Now, was that because the police had lowered the entry qualifications or requirements to get more people in? Or did the people say, this job's not for me? Either it's not paying enough, or I didn't like working shift. It's going to take us so many years to make sergeant, blah, blah, blah. Thought I was just going to be riding around in a panda car. I want to join the Sweeney. I don't know. But he had the same caper with doctors. said he was going to hire so many new doctors. There's going to be so many new hospitals. It's going to, it's great listening to the people. It's great listening to the talking. When it comes down to the walking and the walking, none of this happens. It's the same with Sunak. Oh, yeah, and we'll do this, and yes, and I'm going to do that. Whoa, yeah, and we're going to legislation. There won't be any strikes, don't you worry about that, ma'am. I'm here. Yeah, them immigrants, yeah, we're going to hide them on planes. We're going to ship them back to wherever they came from. Yeah, none of that's going to happen. Now the biggie, the 7 million. The 7 million in the line. What are you going to do about it? Where's the action? Oh, well, we've got a plan. We've got to... It's nonsense. Because Boris had a plan. Did that work? Nah. I mean, Truss wasn't there long enough to even get a plan. Her economic plan was like, I'm just going to borrow more money. The country's got a huge debt, £2.5 trillion. That's 2.5 million pounds. The number's astronomical. The Bank of England trying to combat the inflation which it created by printing all the money a couple of years ago, paying for all the COVID stuff, all the furlough, all the QE, buying government bonds because nobody else wants to buy them. Bank of England's buying debt off the UK government because nobody else wants to buy it. People said, no, the banks want to buy it. No, they don't. Because if they did, they would buy it. If the case is, that's why it's in the Bank of England, because nobody else wants it. The Bank of England adjusts the prices. It forced the prices up because it was buying stuff. The government debt is owned by the Bank of England. The Bank of England is owned by the UK government. Don't worry, it's the same in America, apart from the Fed's not owned by the American government. It's the same in the ECB. It's the same in all these countries. They're all buying their own debt. Yeah, nothing bad's ever going to come of that, is it? Prices have went up. Inflation's went up. You need to combat inflation. How do you combat inflation? Put the interest rates up. Interest rates been clicking up over this year. Bank of England's 3.5%, ECB's 2%. The Fed's got a floating range 4.25 to 4.5. A year ago, it was 0.1. Was zero. Was negative in the ECB land in some of the countries. All these bonds that the government's pumping out, debt. Because it can't run the government on the amount of taxes that it takes in. It can't run it. November was the biggest November borrowing of any UK government ever. In just numerical terms. Probably percentage terms in the wartime estimate would be higher. UK government's having to pay higher prices for these bonds that it's pumping into the market. Bank of England is selling the bonds back into the market that it bought when the bonds were low. The bond prices have gone down. Bank of England's losing money on virtually every one of the bonds that it's selling back into the market. No problem. UK Treasury has got a rider on that anytime the Bank of England makes a loss, that the UK government will cover the loss. What does that mean? The simple answer, what it means is the UK government has to print even more debt. Has to print even more debt to cover the loss that the Bank of England made on buying the previous government debt. Are you getting the message? Are you feeling it? Are you feeling how totally incompetent are the people that's running the government? None of these things are going to happen. We're living in like a parallel universe type of thing. It's Benny Hill land. It's Benny Hill land, but without the jokes. This is serious stuff. We've got people that aren't tackling anything. You've had Hunt, he's the Chancellor. What did he do? Oh, just going to raise taxes across the board. Basically, that's all he said. Raise them on the energy companies, I'm going to raise them on personal people, I'm going to raise NIC, I'm going to keep your threshold of your tax allowances at the same rate, I'm going to take this off you, I'm going to take more. My bait is bigger than what it has been because I need that money. Meanwhile, money's flowing out of the door. Everybody in the dog. There's no seemingly fiscal control over where this money goes. The old ones, overseas aid. People always bring that one up to 0.5%. Every pound in taxes that you pay, a halfpenny goes to overseas aid. It's a huge amount of taxes. That overseas aid, it's a reasonable size wedge. That goes out the door. Basically, the government is borrowing money to give it away. All this assistance that we're giving to Ukraine, That's got to be paid for. Where's he get the money? Oh, borrows it. You're going to have to pay it back at some point, well in the future. You jam tomorrow. Ricky Sunak, he ain't going to be here. He's not going to be the Prime Minister, like I say, in 18-month time. He couldn't give it. Put your own ending to it. Doesn't give a toss about it. Why would he? He's not going to be the Prime Minister. He can just showboat about for 18 months, make it look like he's trying to do something. None of these things will be sorted out to anybody's satisfaction. The strikes, the policy on the government with the strikes seems to be quite simple, is wear them down. The strike pay, they won't be able to afford it all of the time. The unions, that is, will wear the unions out. At some point, they'll come to the negotiating table and we'll be able to screw them down for 5 or 6%, which is what basically they got offered at the start, but we'll increase it by 1/4% or 0.5%, you know. So everybody can come away saying that we're winners. The government will say, yeah, we've won because we didn't pay them the 19%, and the nurses union or something like that will say, you know, it was the best that we could get, and, you know, we've got 7%, and the government said it'll look again next year and the year after, blah, blah, blah. The post office, basically, the post office is on a loser. The Christmas time's come and gone. People aren't that bothered. People can get away without the post office. The real people have been on strike so many times. People will have found other ways of dealing with it, where you don't come into the office, you work from home, you get the bus, you carpool, we hire taxis for people, we can get round it. The real people can go on strike forever now for lots of companies, and they'll get round it. The border, people, that's a minor inconvenience. How can you tell the difference? You turn up at the airport, somebody looks at your passport, they'll let you in the country. But you know, who cares? The driving instructors, okay. So new people kind of get their licenses. Is it a problem? You know, you have to wait 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks till they catch up. It only involves the people that's wanting their licenses. Nobody else gives a toss about them. Let's get to the main ones though. The nurses. Problem with the nurses going on strike is they had the card which was, we're going to go on strike. People are frightened of that, and rightly so. But they've been on strike. There wasn't hundreds of people dead in the street. The next strike will have less impact. If you read the reports in the papers and stuff like that, the NHS is limping along. Sadly, people are trying their best. There's just not enough of them. What happens? The nurses go on strike again. Government doesn't back down. Nurses go on strike again. Government doesn't back down. There might be an incident, somebody will end up brown bread. It'll be unfortunate. We'll give them 0.5% more. The nurses will accept it. They'll pay back. The ambulance drivers. When you say we've got people on ambulances, you've got some of them having to wait horrendous amounts of time. If you're not directly involved in it, it doesn't concern you. Like the electric going off. If everybody had a 1 hour or a 2 hour power outage every day, people would be concerned about it. Yeah, my freezers went off, can't get central heating, I've got a new baby in the house, need to keep the place warm, can't cook, I've only got electric, blah, 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 blah. Like I say, the government's plan is just hunker down, let the unions blow hot and cold. They'll come back to the table at some point. Maybe it's in a week, maybe it's in a month, maybe it's in 2 months. But we'll not have to pay 19%, we'll pay them 6 or 5 or whatever the number is. Like I say, it ain't going to make any difference to the polling. I keep saying it, Conservatives are dead men walking. Sunak's on that section of the jail, you know, where they're just counting the days till they get in the chair. He's not doing the best for the country or the best for the legacy or the best for this. He's doing enough so he can get on the circuit, just like Boris, give a few talks, get 100k in your head. I mean, Boris made £1 million or something when he went off. He booked and all right, you know, how I tried to save the UK, blah blah blah. That's my view. This is personal view. I mean, it's just so disappointing. This is not a new government. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th Prime Minister since the Conservatives took power back in 2010 or whatever it was. Conservative policies. Conservative policies have ended up in this absolute mess. Massive waiting lists, horrendous amounts of strikes, inflation above 10%, interest rates going up, people can't afford houses, cost of food, Brexit not sorted out, still shambolic, borders in the middle of the sea, Ireland, they cannot form a Northern Ireland Assembly or Parliament or whatever you call it across them. NHS, 7 million in counting. Immigration, basically open door policy. You can either have a welfare system. This is not me saying this. I heard it somewhere. Unfortunately, I cannot attribute to it. I've heard other people say it. You can either have a welfare system in a country, or you can have an open door immigration policy in a country. But you can't have the two coexist. There's real problems with the volume of immigration in the country. Real problems. None of which any of the politicians seem willing, capable of dealing with. When you get numbers that you're talking about, if people come into the country, it causes huge problems. Fundamentally huge problems. Where's the jobs for these people? 140,000 people that come across in the boats in the last couple of years that are bivouacked in the hotels at the moment. Where's the jobs for them? What, they're all gonna ride for Uber Eats and Just Eats and DoorDash or whatever it is. I'm not too sure if we've got DoorDash across here yet. They're all going to do that. They're all going to work in Mackie Days. What is it? Where's these jobs? Conservatives keep saying we want a high wages, highly skilled population. Really? Show me the indications of that. They talked about having a battery factory up beside Blythe. That's Northumberland coast. I think that's fallen by the wayside. What a place to put it, Blythe. What would be the reason to put it up there? All the car companies that would be using it, are south of there. It's in a ridiculous place. You want the battery place where the car factories are, unless there's a reason for it, i.e. cheap land or cheap taxes or cheap power, something like that. Where's the jobs for all the people? These additional 500,000 people that came to the UK, where's the jobs for them? Oh, well, they're crying out for jobs in the health service. They're crying out for jobs in the old people's homes and the retirement communities and all this. They're crying out for jobs and stuff like that. British people are just too lazy. They'll not take these jobs. Yeah, one of the government ministers saying that there's, whatever it was, the numbers, I can't remember, 400,000 or 500,000 or 600,000 less people now working than there was at the start of the panic. People say, I brought me retirement forward a couple of years. I'm knackered. I've been working for X number of years. The amount of money that I'm paying in taxes is not worth us working anymore. All people are saying, I've seen the light. The penny showed us the light. I can live on what I'm earning, or on what my pension or whatever. And yet I'm doing a part-time job. Don't need to work full-time. These are real things which is happening in the real economy. The demographics of the UK are changing. The baby boom generation is midway through retirement. Another 5 or 6 years, maybe it's a bit more, say 7 years, that'll be all of the baby boomers retired. This was the big generation, the post-war generation, like 46 through to 63. All retirement. We've got AI, but why is the economy not getting geared up for AI? We need more skilled people, not more people. The government doesn't seem to look at it that way. It goes for this GDP, just more GDP, bigger GDP. They need the GDP. It's like one of these Ponzi schemes. The GDP must rise, otherwise the government falls. The debt to GDP ratio, it's over 100% in the UK. I think if it gets to 130 or 140%, I don't think there's any countries come back from that. People say, well, look at Greece, 220 or whatever it is and stuff like that. There is, okay, I'll buy that, yeah. I don't know enough about Greece to say how the same numbers being used. But he's got problems. But he's a smiler, Sunak, and he's hoping in his fairness doctrine and all this, and he'll come out with a few little clips and stuff like that. And next year, Hunt's budget will come into force. People will feel the real effect of it. Then the year after, it'll be gone. And there'll be the mess to sweep up, clear up. I've got no idea. I tend to think all of these things that he'll do will be marginal, not fundamentally change anything. Come back in a year's time. Is the waiting list 7 million, or is it 5 million, or is it 8 million? You'll get the smarty Alec consultants in there. They'll tell you go for the low hanging fruit. You know, do all of the easy ones first. You know, don't put them in medical order. You don't want any of the complex ones. No. You know, we should rate them on how quickly we can get these numbers down. Some people will just have to fall off the end. You know, we won't get to them. Won't be driven by what the doctors want, which will be like, you know, the people with the biggest medical need stuff. The consultants will be, no, now he's got a toenail thing. Well, we'll set up a mobile thing that just does toenails, and we'll get all the toenail people out of the backlog of people. Something like that. You'll have small things. There'll be small gains. Fundamentally, don't know. Wait till 1 year, see what the numbers are and stuff like that. Unless you throw a lot of money at it and get more people. But you see some of the reports coming out of the NHS, doctors, nurses, leaving the NHS, finding that the work-life balance, they can find better somewhere else. It's not a good situation. So that's my take on what Sunak has got. And he's into. Will he fail? I believe he will not achieve anything. So on that basis, yeah, I think he'll fail. Do I want him to fail? No, because I think it's not good for the country. Will he be the Prime Minister in 2 or 3 years' time? I would take long months on that. What I see happening is he'd fight the next election, he'd lose it. He'd get into Parliament, he'll hang around for a couple of months, and there'll be a by-election in Richmond or wherever it is that his constituency is. And then he'll be off on his tours to California or wherever he fancies going. Most people are a PM when they get beat at the election. They drop out of politics. You know, same with Major. Same with Brown. But it just feels like the country doesn't have a government. Or should I say, it doesn't feel like it has a government that cares about the people and the future of the UK. Just feels like it's run by a bunch of chancellors, bunch of barrel boys trying to con you. Putting 1 or 2 nice apples or grapes on the top of the bunch, having them in a bag when you get them home, find half the apples are rotten. That's what I think. That's my personal view. I'm Ted.